Welcome, everyone. Jonathan Kirschner here, along with my sidekick, Joy Nissen, and we're here on a podcast about leadership. And on this podcast, we talk about all things leadership, and we're delighted today to have Gideon Rosenberg on the call today from Tel Aviv. And Gideon works for a little small company called NVIDIA. If anybody's heard of NVIDIA, it's this small little $4.5 trillion and growing organization that is ushering in, heralding, accelerating the future through AI and many other things. So Gideon, is just fantastic to have you here. Welcome on the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So Gideon, I mean, the first question, we have burning curiosity about is really just you. And maybe you could share a little bit about yourself and your journey that brought you up to where you are right now. And then we have about a billion more questions.
4.5 trillion more questions.
Yeah, so I won't go through all my career, but about 15 years ago, a little over 15 years ago, I joined a small company called Mellanox Technologies here in Israel. And at the time, we had about 450 employees and worldwide, and we were valued at around $700 million on the stock market, on NASDAQ. And we went through this amazing trajectory from the time I joined. Shortly afterwards, we started acquiring companies, and growth started to happen. We hit a few speed bumps along the way, but then in 2019, we were acquired by NVIDIA. The closing happened in 2020, and ever since we joined forces, and things have gone really, really well, obviously. And I joined originally as deputy general counsel. I've got a legal background, and that's what I do. Led M&As and the sort of things that you would expect. And then about 4 years ago, I also became head of HR here in Israel.
Just help us understand, like, what's it like inside NVIDIA, and how is it as an employee, as a leader, and what is your sense of what makes it distinctive?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think overall, look, it's been a very good experience, right? We've joined in exactly an opportune moment in time. In the last 5 years, it's been amazing, right? But I think what you've mentioned Jensen's leadership style is different than what I've seen in the past with other CEOs. Not because, and for me, it's mostly on the side of, he's a very empathetic person, right? He really genuinely cares about his employees. And that's not to knock my previous CEOs that I worked with who also cared about their employees. But Jensen's taken it to this new level for me personally. And I see it in the actions that he takes and the way he cares about each and every one of his employees. And so that, I think, trickles down obviously within the organization, and we focus on that. So Jensen likes to say, hey, you come to NVIDIA to do your life's work, right? And that could sound a bit pretentious, because what does that mean, right? Is NVIDIA the only company where you could do your life's work? No, that's not what he really means, but it means you should be doing something that you think is meaningful, right? Not that just we at NVIDIA think is meaningful, but you individually. And so what that leads to is people that are doing hopefully jobs that they're interested in. And if they're not satisfied, they should look to find another job within the organization, because there are other opportunities. And I'm a great example, right? Suddenly, from legal, I've moved to also doing HR, which I never thought I would do in my life, right? I don't think anybody around me thought I would do ever in my life. And that was a big, bit of a leap of faith on behalf of leadership, including Jensen, to give me that role. And, it's paid off for me, hopefully also for the company. But, that's sort of the vision here, right? You can do different things. And I think that's sort of a core part of how we do business internally.
Yeah, I love that. I think we also read that Jensen's a big proponent of learning from mistakes in a public way, and I imagine that connects to this. If something's not working in your role or even professionally for you, there's opportunity to learn from that and find something that's a better fit. So I'm curious, Gideon, with your HR hat on and with NVIDIA being at this pivotal moment, really building the foundational technology for the future, how does that forward-looking mission translate into like how the company actually thinks about developing its own people, like the HR people strategy? Is there like an NVIDIA way to managing talent? How do you own that hat? Because that's a big hat.
First and foremost, obviously, we're looking for the best talent out there. All right, we're looking always to find, and that's across all disciplines. It doesn't, it's not just the tech people, right? And it's our operations team, it's our finance team, it's our legal team, it's the marketing team. Everybody, we're looking for the top talent. And we mentioned Jensen before, and I think one of the key attributes for him when he's looking for his executives, he's looking to hire the best humans, right? So it's not just about your skill set in your technical capability, but it's also how you are as a human being. And I think that's an important, distinction, especially for a company that's leading the AI revolution. And so we want to make sure that the human element is maintained. And so we're really focused on that and trying to ensure that our employees are always challenged. We give them, full authority to do things on their own, right? Everybody can be what we call a pick, right? A person, a pilot in command of the mission, the specific mission that they're given, right? And it could be a junior employee who owns that mission and can tell, a senior leader, hey, this is what we're doing type thing. And that conversation is acceptable, right? To within our organization.
Wow. So you can just blast through hierarchy with that clarity of role. Like if I am pick, right, then I can. It doesn't matter where I sit on the totem pole.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with some
Okay.
some things, but yeah, in general, yeah. I mean, that's the idea. We're empowering our employees to do their job and to drive missions, to drive our success, and that's key. So we want to, and I mentioned this before, we want to make sure that our managers are thinking about this concept, right? That every morning, all right, you need to remember that your employees make a decision to come work, right? And they wake up in the morning, they open their eyes and they go, yep, going to work today.
Yeah.
And that happens every day, right? It's not a one-off decision, right? They made a decision to join NVIDIA, which is great. And then every day they need to make that decision. So that's a mindset that that we've instilled in our managers, that you need to be focused on the employee success and their desire to continue to work for the company. And that's not always the way people think.
That's such a beautiful thing. Coming into this call, I'm just a consumer of the Wall Street Journal and Market Watch and Barron's and various publications, and I see Jensen and his black leather coat. He's always smiling. He's holding up like a GPU or posing next to a robot.
Yeah.
The first thing that comes to mind is visionary, innovation, just leading the future. And then when you take that into the broader context of what you're seeing in tech, right? Whether it's Meta, Google, Microsoft, and you look at the continuous stream of cuts and riffs, and it's just you're where your mind would, ultimately the conclusion it would arrive at is that this is a cutthroat, tech first, human second,
Right.
environment. And what I'm hearing from you is that actually it's
The
human
opposite,
first.
yeah.
And I didn't know that everybody views Jensen as this incredibly empathic, human first leader. That's really amazing to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, I don't know how it is in other companies, and so I don't really reference them, but I say, in general, we are a small company, relatively speaking, in terms of the size of our employee base, and so which is why we're growing at a fast pace, and we're playing catch up with some of the other large tech companies, but yeah, we've always put our people in front, and Jensen is right there. That's one of his key mantras.
That's amazing. I mean, so Joy and I are podcasters, a new role we've taken on recently, but we're also leadership experts and leaders ourselves. So I'm the CEO of AIIR, and Joy is our SVP of Leadership Solutions. You're obviously a leader. I think we can all sort of level set that, like, one of the hardest things in leadership is managing the polarities.
Yeah.
Right. The sort of the opposites and the tension that's created between these opposites. So on the one hand, you've got like people leadership and human first leadership and the empathy that we all have, and compassion. And then on the other pole is like the cold, hard business results and performance.
Yeah.
So driving performance and driving, human engagement and human motivation through the relationship and through empathy. And sometimes these can come into tension with each other. I find that personally to be the hardest challenge being a leader, period.
Yeah.
The best leaders I know have figured out how to sort of negotiate between these two competing tensions. I'm just curious. I mean, it's sort of an abstract, kind of concept, the notion of this polarity.
Yeah.
But Gideon, like any thoughts on that? Any observations or anecdotes of how you've seen that manifest within NVIDIA?
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, it's not easy working at NVIDIA, right? It's not, I don't want to paint a picture that says it's all great and everybody's happy all day long, right?
Right. No stress.
It's a difficult world that we work in. It's very competitive. We want to make sure that we're running faster than our competitors, and Jensen is a very demanding leader, and rightfully so. That's why he's successful, right? The fact that he can balance both driving the business to the cutting edge of technology that we're at, and that's cutting edge across all our organizations, right? Not just the GPUs and not just the software, but also operations and others. We're trying to create things that weren't created in the past, right? With technology that doesn't necessarily exist.
You're creating the future.
Right.
Right. So,
You're making sci-fi
it's
real.
very challenging, but he can balance that with the fact that he's just very empathetic,
Yeah.
but at the same time, he's very demanding. And when he's not happy, you're aware that he's not happy.
Mhm.
And I think that's fair, right?
Mhm.
At the end of the day, he expects us to deliver.
Yeah.
And he has high expectations from us, and we need to meet them. And sometimes, that happens easier, and sometimes it doesn't. And we have to strike that chord, the right balance. But overall, it's very difficult, right? So,
And is it like, how does it all work? Meaning it, like you could see this as being like a disaster, like from a culture standpoint, and yet it works so beautifully. My hypothesis would be that, clear is kind,
Mhm.
and the more clear you are about your expectations and the norms,
Mhm.
whether we're going to be a hardcore working
Mhm.
culture, or it's just this is going to be like a
Laissez-faire.
big party. It almost doesn't matter. It's how clear you are about
Yeah.
what the expectations are. I mean, would you say that is part of it?
So I think it's all of it,
All of
right?
it,
At the end of the day, when there's a very clear mission, message from your leadership as to what it is that's expected and how it's expected to happen, then everybody can work towards the same mission. And I think we have this ability. Obviously, success has helped, right? So when you're successful and the company's doing so well, everybody's on board. It's much easier to get everybody on board on the mission, and work harder and enjoy the work itself, even though we have people that work really, really hard, and that's not easy over the course of time. But people have been with us also for many, many years, and so they enjoy the environment and understand it most of the time. Right? It's not always perfect, but it's most of the time people are very clear. And the fact that Jensen's such a visionary, it's just very, obviously it's helpful. We all understand the vision, and he's very adept at telling us the vision in ways that are very clear to us, very simple, right? And it's not, you don't have to be a tech person to understand the vision. You ought to just need to listen, and he's making it very, very clear. And so that just drives everybody to the success that we've achieved.
No, that's in addition to all the visionary leadership skills and innovation, that clear communication is itself, I think a pretty big superpower.
Yeah. It's rare to have leaders that are able to be so big picture and also so detail oriented.
No, it's usually a trade-off. Like you're saying, one over-indexed at the expense of the other. To be able to have both is pretty unique. So Joy and I, we talk a lot about leadership, and at AIIR, the way we define leadership, obviously, is that we're actualizing a clear and compelling vision through others, right? So if you're doing it through yourself, you might be a great contributor. You might be building something incredible. You can still be a pioneer and an innovator, but you're not a leader, right? The leadership, the requirement is that it's through others. Now, others, for the vast history of the world, all the history of the world, has been people. But we're now approaching a point where we have to take into account AI as part of that others, and especially that sounds really abstract, and it's hard to really to think of that as true when we associate AI to a sort of ChatGPT or Gemini terminal that you're chatting with. But when we have robots sitting next to us, at the boardroom table, or in our office,
which Gideon might already have and just can't say.
I think it's going to start to become very real. So I guess Gideon, what are your thoughts on how AI is going to impact leadership and teams? And when I say AI, not just AI as we know it now, but where the puck is going, and as far as embodied AI and robots,
like that human robot interaction, if you will.
Yeah. So I, obviously I'd love to be able to tell you that I know what's going to happen. But I don't, because we're living through this revolution together. I think I'm going to take my cue from the visionary himself, and that's Jensen, and make it clear. I don't think that we're heading towards a world where nobody's working, right? I think we shouldn't fear AI in that respect, because we're not going to lose our jobs to AI necessarily. We're going to lose our jobs to the people that know how to use AI better than us. Right. So that's the key issue here. And I think we all need to harness the power that is AI. Right. And it's just in its infancy. Right. But we need to harness that power and understand it. And each of us, whether in our professional world or our personal world, and we'll see where there's going to be AI agents, multiple ones that'll help you do your job better, right? And they won't replace you; they'll help you, right, to do things more efficiently. You'll be able, I think, to focus on bigger picture matters rather than the mundane work that we all have to do as part of our regular jobs, right? And so I think that's the world. And obviously some jobs are going to be omitted, but new jobs will be created, right? Things that we don't know yet what they will be will happen, right? If you look back, this has always happened during revolutions of technology, right? We used to have folks that I'm not old enough to remember, but I've seen them in movies that operated elevators.
Yeah, the manual
Right.
elevator. Yeah.
Well, that used to be, and it's no longer,
Right.
right? And there's millions of examples of similar, jobs that have changed over the course of mankind, right?
Yeah.
And so we'll get there. There'll be newer jobs than we
Mhm.
just right. A few years ago, nobody knew what an influencer was
Right.
or YouTuber,
Better times.
right? There were influences, they just weren't called that, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's this whole world that we just don't understand yet, but we know it's going to happen. And that's why we, obviously as NVIDIA, we're investing in that. We're investing a lot of time and effort in getting the right tools and making sure people are educated about AI and understand where it's going and where
Yeah.
we also want to bring it to. So, and make sure that they can thrive in that environment of AI. And I think that'll be a game changer for where people want to work. It'll be based on, all right, what's, it's not just going to be salary. It's not going to be just, what do we have a nice cafeteria? It's what's my working environment
Yeah.
from an AI perspective, not just my desk and my chair, is it a comfortable chair or not, right? There's obviously going to be obvious stuff. It's going to be basics of what AI tools do we have, and whoever has the better AI tools, might attract better talent.
I love that example of the elevator
Mhm.
operator. Because, his job did go away.
Yeah.
But he didn't necessarily need to go away and become obsolete. Like
Right.
he probably learned some different skills and is working in a different position somewhere. Or not, if he chose not to learn different skills. So
Mhm.
it's not as simplistic as some of these like very sort of negative dystopian,
Mhm.
pictures where like 90% of the jobs will be done and like we're just going to be like
Right.
laying back on a beach chair with a large Diet Coke or
Right.
something.
With UBI and just collecting money from
Yeah.
machines that do our work.
I mean, it sounds like your position is more of that yeah, it's jobs are going to change and
Mhm.
probably pretty significantly.
Yeah.
But our ability to adapt and learn AI skills is going to be, really essential for anybody who wishes to have a successful career in the future.
Yeah. And Gideon, we don't typically get HR and legal experts, the two in one. So I'm curious what is your perspective of like what are some of the ethical and legal questions that we as leaders at organizations should be thinking about, asking themselves as we go into this kind of uncharted era of disruption?
Sure, I think there's going to be so many of those, and I'm not necessarily an expert in this, and so I'm going to say, look, there's at some point we need to figure out, right? People working on this is how do we avoid bias and privacy issues that are arising from AI, right? And that's going to be a key item, right? GDPR compliance or privacy compliance rules that happen,
Yep.
and another key area will be, it already is, right? Copyrights, IP rights in general, like who's going to own the IP, and there's already case law that's starting to materialize there, but I'm not sure that it's it's still at the nascent part. Does the AI own it? Does the company that created it, but we haven't gotten to the point where employees are going to say, well, wait, this is mine, this is yours, and things of that nature. That'll work itself. Job displacement concerns, obviously, and how we support on the reskilling or upskilling and their skill sets. And from an HR perspective, I think there's going to be, how are we going to keep the level playing field, right? How are we going to make it fair in terms of hiring people, right? Because there's going to be AI tools screening resumes, and that already exists, and things of that nature, right? And it's not just going to be that, right? It's going to be the next level will be, all right, there's going to be an AI tool that will do your focal review for you, right? It'll write the focal review for the manager. It'll write the self-assessment for the employee. How do we make sure that we keep that, while the tool's going to be very useful? How do we make sure that the managers are still focused on the performance and not just relying on the AI to tell them their performance, right? We're gonna have the same things in schools, right? Kids and parent-teacher conferences are become really interesting, and so this is all applicable to the real world outside of work. I know we're focused on work, but yeah, and then I think obviously cybersecurity issues are going to pop up with the use of AI, and how are we going to protect the company and employees and organizational data and all that from sophisticated AI cybersecurity attacks, right? That's we've all seen things happening already, right, with generative AI videos and things,
Deep fakes.
makes exactly, and all that stuff. So it's not going to be boring. And you see, the point is we were making earlier, lawyers aren't going to be replaced, right? Some work that lawyers do will be replaced, but it's going to be a long time before we have AI figure out ethical AI, right? So
Yeah, I'm just picturing like chatbots suing each other now.
So talk a little bit about
all away from us. We'll get there.
We'll get there.
my agent is suing your agent.
Right. Right. Right.
And I've created an agent to represent
my
agent. Oh my
gosh.
gosh. So legal, ethical, maybe just for a moment to just touch on philosophical implications. When we are starting to, as AI becomes a more accurate and increasingly more accurate prediction machine, and people continue to delegate their human thinking to AI, do you have any fears or concerns that like we're just gonna kind of degrade our human intelligence and just become kind of like, again, that picture of the person sitting back on
in
the
WALL-E?
chair, in WALL-E,
floating through space.
and an electric chair like that takes you through the cafeteria.
Right.
Yeah, I don't share those concerns per se, because all technology throughout history, everybody said, well, technology is going to make you dumber, for lack of a better word, right? Or
Right. I guess like the calculator, people thought
whatever, right? So I remember when I used the calculator. Yeah, when I used the calculator, when I moved to the States at a young age, and everybody in the classroom turned around and said, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I don't know, just using a calculator. What's the big deal? Why couldn't I use the technology?" But apparently it was frowned upon at the 7th grade. And I did not know that. And so, I think, did the calculator make, no, it made my life easier. Not sure that I needed to know, how to do long division in my head. Turns out I do know how to do it, but only to a certain degree of numbers, right? But, technology is going to make our lives better. People that will want to continue to educate themselves will continue to educate themselves. People that want to just coast through life will coast through life, irrespective of the technology. We have search engines galore today, right? You could find everything there, already. And so it's just a question of how you use it and how you want to, excel. I think it's actually the reverse. AI will be more of a leveler in the playing field, right? Because it's available to everybody, right? Everybody can use ChatGPT or the likes, and it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can use it, right? And that'll help, I think, change things around a bit and make sure that people all across the world are playing on this as an equal footing as possible, right? There's always going to be some changes, but an advantage is to people that have more money, because they'll be able to buy better solutions. But it'll work itself out also. And I think, people need to learn how to use it, and they want to be lazy, then they'll be lazy.
Yeah, that's great. I love that you brought it back into like the context of the larger trajectory of history, because this isn't the first time that there's been like a radical innovation. And you're right, like at each point, if you think about the computer, the internet, the mobile phone, probably even, I don't know, the typewriter, there's that, and that gut reflexive, like, oh, this is going to make us, dumber, when in fact it can make us like leapfrog where we were. Joy and I talk to a lot of CHROs and heads of talent management, talent
Hmm.
development, leadership and organizational development, organizational effectiveness. They're all a little on edge.
Yeah.
As far as like, what do they need? What should be their priority right now when they think about preparing their organizations
Hmm.
for the future? In some ways, like you could argue that the CHRO role in particular is going to be increasingly like one of the most important roles
Hmm.
in an organization. That's my perspective. Because I don't know who's going to be the determiner of our mix between robots and humans,
Right.
and the implications that might have to culture
Hmm.
and to workforce planning and all these things. Like so much is going to be rolled up into HR that may have previously been relegated to other
Right.
functions within
Tech
with
divisions or
yeah, like IT or so yeah, I'm just curious, like what advice Gideon, would you have for CHROs and people leader professionals right now, in terms of thinking about and planning for the future?
Well, I don't want to be presumptuous to say that I can give advice to all CHROs, but if I'm looking at it from my personal perspective and saying, okay, well, what should we do? It's quite simple, right? You got to embrace AI. The change is coming, right? There's no point fighting it. It's going to happen,
Yep.
right? And I think going back to what we said earlier, right? It's not the question of replacing people. The job is understanding now, how do we adapt our people? How do we grow their skill set into using AI in a more efficient way to make our company more efficient, right? To get better results. Because we're not going to replace all roles, right? They will be. So you can identify certain roles where you go, okay, there's no real added value in a human spending time on doing this task, right? I can automate it. But guess what? I was automating tasks way before AI, right? It all goes back. There's nothing new here. There's just new technology, right? So we've automated, you know, worlds before. Right?
Yeah.
Ford automated the way we create automobiles, right? And so, that was a breakthrough. And so we're always going to want to drive automation in our organizations, and AI will help us in that. And we will lift our employees and help them become, you said it before, superpowers, right? So they'll have superpowers. AI will give them superpowers that they didn't have before. We just need to understand and explain to them, bridge that concern that they have. Am I going to be replaced by AI or by this machine or whatever? And no, you're going to be working with it. You're going to use it, and you're going to become a better employee and enjoy your work more because of it.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I love that. And we've been doing a lot of AI accelerators. So we'll work with leaders, with organizations to help with really the mindset shift and the cultural shift around what does it mean to embrace this technology in a way that doesn't diminish from your culture, from your goals, from the human-centered nature of the work that we all value. And I'd love to hear from you, Gideon. You shared at the top of this interview that you've had an extensive background in M&A integration, and so much of that is that blending of company cultures. And I almost think of AI as kind of the I don't know, cultural integration that our entire planet is going through together. So I'd love to hear, what are some of the leadership challenges and maybe successes that you can draw upon from your M&A experience that would maybe be helpful as we navigate our global M&A with AI?
Yeah, again, AI is a tool, and
Yeah.
we need to use the tool. We shouldn't rely on the tool, right? We can't just rely on the tool. We need to use our abilities as humans to think and
Yeah.
and develop and create the new environment that we want to work in it. From an M&A perspective, obviously trying to blend cultures together and different companies and the way they work is always the most difficult part of the acquisition, right? So doing acquisitions is, I say, fairly easy, right?
Yeah.
Form is form, and we do due diligence and we do everything. And then most acquisitions will fail on the post-merger integration part. I've been very lucky throughout my career. I've done many M&A transactions, both being and including two where I was acquired. Right? Previous company before owning Mellanox was also acquired. And I think overall, right, you got to have the right fit, and that's very difficult. It also depends on the size of the company being acquired and the sort. But if you're looking at a fairly large acquisition compared to your own size, then there's going to be a lot of time and effort spent on trying to understand how do we mesh the teams together, and that's a work that the entire leadership has to work at and do. And obviously, I've learned through many of these experiences that that you got to work at it a lot, and nobody's going to do the job for you, and that's all leadership. It starts with the CEO, and trickles down to others. But it's not just obviously the acquirer side; it's the acquired side as well. They need to understand the new universe that they're in, and they have to buy into the story. And you have to understand that it's in their interest as well to be part of this larger organization, and they need to buy into the vision and that sort. So we can go into examples from my past if you want.
I would be curious because it sounds like the biggest risk. I love how you said basically that M&A is easy until the post merger integration.
The paperwork's easy.
Assuming you have the expertise. I guess it could all make sense on the Excel file and the analyst reports, but then, the rubber meets the road, on day two. And it sounds like culture, from what I hear from you, Gideon, is the number one, success factor or, blocker to an M&A going well. So, I mean, to the extent you have an anecdote or could double click on, what you've seen, work really well from a culture standpoint, or conversely, like, what didn't work well.
Right.
Yeah. So I think I'll actually, what works really well is when the CEO of the acquiring company has a good relationship with the folks being acquired, right? And that always helps because they already understand each other, right? They respect each other, and that's worked really well at NVIDIA with Jensen. Everybody, really respects him, and he respects them, and that can work really well. On the flip side, right, when it, I can give you one anecdote from an acquisition we did many years ago at Mellanox. It was our first acquisition. We acquired a company called Voltaire, and there was animosity between the companies. For I'm not even sure. I wasn't part of the animosity because I just joined Mellanox a bit before, but there was some animosity between the companies. I think over competitiveness and we were both trying to get into similar spaces and whatnot. And once we acquired, you start, so we've done the due diligence, we've done everything. We thought we understood everything, right? That was the key issue. We thought we knew, and we created these new form agreements for them, employment agreements, and we said, we know what we're doing here, right? We've got these new agreements. We're going to get them on our paper because we wanted consistency across the company. And
that makes sense.
We had looked through their documents and ours and the comparison, and we felt very comfortable with what we provided, and we missed something. We missed a term that was we didn't think was critical because it was part of the way we did business, right? So we had just a culture of that dealt with that issue without having it written in our employment agreements. But for them, when we delivered the document, it became a critical issue. And no matter how many times I spent telling people, don't worry about it. This is the way, this has been our practice. We've been doing this since we've been founded. They just were not happy with just taking our word for it, and we had to amend the contract. And
Wow. And this was like a cultural artifact from the legacy from
it was just, yeah. And they had it written in. The difference was they had it written in their contract, and we didn't. But we practiced the same. So there was no issue. There was no discrepancy in culture. It was just the way it was formulated in a document, or not in the document. And for them, it was, we didn't think much of it, but for them, it was critical.
existential.
And because of the lack of the some animosity that was pre-existing, it became a bigger issue, right? And so there was a lot of trust issues around.
Yeah.
So we missed that, and we learned from that, obviously, for future situations, and we ensured that we took a much more careful look at things, at employment agreements, and the way we did business afterwards in our future acquisitions. So you got to learn from your mistakes, obviously, and I was pretty glad that we did. But that was a painful mistake, and especially obviously for me, because I was legal, and I said, I'm sure I was there saying it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. And then I had to
worry about it.
bullying you, which is it's fine. I paid the price, obviously, for my own mistakes. Yeah, but that's you got to be really careful with that situation. So how you bring people on board, how you make them feel comfortable, how you buy their trust, and it's all that trust at that
At the
point.
core, it's trust,
Always,
right?
yeah.
And that's
Trust, safety. Yeah. You won't be creative or innovative if you don't feel safe. So,
but even like for creating that right culture,
Yeah.
you could argue, I mean, that there's so much involved in culture being the manifestation of our values and behaviors, but at the very, very core of it all is trust. Like you could have the most, eloquent, culture posters and cards and behavioral values, but none of it matters if you don't have that sort of foundational trust in place. Gideon, I want to, this is a podcast on leadership, and I want to hear a little bit about how you as a leader manage within one of the most amazing but also demanding organizations in the world. How do you stay grounded? How do you stay focused? I've been so impressed throughout this podcast, by the way, of your ability to just kind of like reduce the noise and just be really clear and simple. Like AI is just a tool.
Right.
It doesn't feel that way, when you're trying to like chase it and understand it and, reading newsletters, like it can just become so overwhelming. And before you know it, you're like, this thing's like taking over the world. But it's great to hear from you about like, hey, it's just a tool. Like you can use it to do some extraordinary things, but it's a tool, and don't lose sight of that.
Right.
Curious if you could maybe do that for us, in this important domain of leadership. How are you staying grounded? How are you leading today?
So if I'm being really honest here, which I tend to do anyway, I don't take myself overly seriously. Right? I understand that I have a big title, and it may seem important to fit people that, like, oh, I'm a VP, and people will look at me and go, oh, you're a VP. You must be,
very important.
But that must be very important. And it's not true, right? I mean, I have a lot of responsibility because of my title, right? Because of my jobs, but that doesn't mean that that's everything. And anything to me, it's my job, and I need to take it seriously. But I don't need to take myself too seriously. Not let it go to my head that I'm working. I wasn't born a VP. I wasn't born a VP at NVIDIA. And that, that's thankfully my life trajectory has led me to here, but there was a lot of hard work that got me here, and a lot of luck, right? It's all about luck. So I think if I just whittle it down to that, I don't take myself too seriously. I know my strengths and my weaknesses. I like to delegate. I don't micromanage. I have a very good relationship with my team. I trust them completely. And I make sure that, I know they know how to do their roles. And remember, I'm not an HR professional, right? I didn't learn this. I've been learning it over the course of, life, but also especially in the last 4 years. So I have people that work for me or report into me or part of my organization that are much more experienced and have the expertise and are subject matter experts that I will never have, right? And so I trust in them, and they can, they teach me, and they lead from the front, and they can do their jobs. I don't need to do their jobs for them, and I think that's sort of key. I let them focus on theirs. I focus on mine. They know when to come to me. I know when to go to them. Right.
I love that. This idea of don't take yourself too seriously. It's like simple advice,
Yeah.
but I think underlying that is essentially humility.
Yeah.
Right. It's knowing that you might be wrong, that things might change, and that we have to put our best foot forward and bring it. But at the same time, know that like things might change, right? Humility seems to be one of these, like, I mean, it's a timeless attribute, but particularly important
these days
right now.
Yeah.
Any other like skills
or behaviors
or leadership attributes that like you think are going to be really important? If you had to give advice to future leaders tomorrow, to be successful in 2030, you really need to know,
or develop, like,
I think it goes back to what we were just talking about before, and that's AI, right? I think in order to be successful, you're going to have to embrace AI, right? That tool that you mentioned, that's the key to anybody being successful. We mentioned it earlier. Whoever knows how to use AI better will lead the charge, right? And whoever, so will benefit from it more than others. And I think that's, the key understanding that I have. Don't be afraid of new technology, right? I'm not an early adopter by any means, right? I was also a little hesitant about this AI thing, right? And I didn't really understand it. And I just recommend, don't read the white papers, don't read those newsletters you mentioned earlier.
Just don't read them all. Unsubscribe.
It's gonna be a lot of unsubscribing for me.
But don't, no, you can read them as long as you also try it out, right?
Okay.
So go get your hands dirty a bit and work with the various tools that are out there. Don't use it just as a search function. It's a great search function, but don't just use it for that. Use it for the other things that it's there for, right? To make your life better. And once you start working with it, then you'll see how great it is, right? So children can use it for education, right? It can teach them how to solve math problems. It doesn't need to give them, it won't give them, if you design it right, you tell it to behave in a certain way, it won't give them the answer. It'll show them the way, right? Educate them. And so we need to educate ourselves as leaders. And if you want to be a leader, you're going to have to figure out how that balance between technology and the human side of things works. And I would just focus on that as well, right? And, and you said humility and be humble. Yeah, you need to understand you don't know everything. Right? That's difficult. And it's okay to say that even to your direct reports or to your team and say, look, I don't have all the answers, right? Sometimes they have answers that you won't have, right?
That humility, especially in the face of AI becoming increasingly more and more and more powerful, the expert, right? The expert physician or engineer, as AI begins to meet that expertise and exceed it, like that is existential in terms of your own identity, right? If my self-esteem and my sense of self is sort of associated with the body of knowledge that I worked my tail off acquiring over 4, 8, 10 years of education, and years of career growth, and all of a sudden this thing can
do it better.
can do it better in 15 seconds. That's a big moment, right? So humility seems to be like a prerequisite in order to be able to use that and your human intelligence to actually like do as we've been talking about, like leapfrog into the future and actually become more advanced, as opposed to that inert human on a beach chair,
blob on the beach,
large soda. So Gideon, this has been fantastic. We've learned so much from this. Is there anything that you'd like to impart upon our listeners before we conclude this wonderful session?
I think, again, going back to the first principles of just remember, we're all humans. We're all going to, this isn't the first revolution of technology that happens in the world. It's not going to be the last one either, right? Just at the nascent heart of AI, it's, and we should enjoy the ride. This is unlike any other revolution that's happened. The difference is we all understood on the same day that the world is changing, right? Every other revolution that's happened from a tech perspective throughout the course of history, it's taken years or decades for people to understand, right? Even including the internet, right? The internet existed in the 60s and the 70s until it became popular. Decades passed, right? And even when it became popular, right, at the beginning, it still took years until, it became really popular and we all understood the power. But we will all know the day that we all heard about ChatGPT, right? And that moment in time, we all understood, well, that's it. World's changed and everybody understands it. And so we're just at that beginning stage and we, embrace it, enjoy the ride. It's going to be an amazing ride, I think, for all of us. And as nobody knows what the future holds, just try to enjoy that ride and embrace it and learn from it and don't be afraid of it.
Don't be afraid of it.
Wise words. Wise words.
Don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid of it. I'm
not saying it's going to be perfect. I'm not saying that the AI won't be used for bad things. It will. All technologies always be used for bad things as well. But the benefits will outgrow the negative parts of things, and our lives will be dramatically better over the course of our lifetime by this technology.
Gideon, thank you so much. You've heard it from Gideon Rosenberg, right? The Deputy General Counsel and Head of Human Resources for NVIDIA Israel. NVIDIA, the global powerhouse in AI, artificial intelligence. And Gideon's parting message is, we're human.
Stay human.
Stay human. Love it.
Yeah.
And really love the don't be scared.
Yeah.
Right. Embrace. Don't be scared. Gideon, thank you so much for spending the time with us and helping us learn, grow, and stretch, and all of our viewers. And it's just been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay.